Hi everyone. I discussed the the atoms aren't the same. I mean the same elements. The atoms aren't identical from the nature's perspective. And in those places where human touches too much of it in physics. Those places are my gold mine. And there's another place where let me finish. Allow me finish the atoms aren't identical. I discussed the atoms are identical in the previous video. Now I'm gonna talk about atoms are identical. When you speak or when you conclude certain elements and their atoms are identical, and how are you going to approach a showing of it or prove it? And it is really a mission impossible, especially from nature's perspective. The atoms are finite. Let's just suppose you are looking at a hydrogen atom, and suppose there are only 100 hydrogen atoms in the entire universe, and you want to conclude all these 100 atoms are identical. How are you going to prove it? I mean, 100 and 100 gazillion, and it makes no difference. How are you going to prove it? There's no other way but compare them one by one. If you compare all but one, you still cannot conclude they are identical. If there are 100 hydrogen atoms, you have to compare all 100 of them. Compare 99, it's not good enough. I mean, logically, not good enough. However, in order to conclude they are not identical, I do not have to. I do not need to. I need not to check all of them. I only need to pick a couple, and somehow I find they are not the same. Either they behave differently during some chemical reaction, or in the most obvious situation is the radioactive decay. And they decay at a different time. They die at a different time. So, logically speaking, two claims or two conclusions. One is that every individual identical. Another is all the individuals aren't identical. The identical one, logically speaking, is a much more prominent conclusion, and is therefore very difficult to prove or impossible to prove. And different is a relatively weaker assertion or conclusion, and it is easier to prove, or even need not to prove, because difference is really, relatively speaking, absolute. And the same, no difference is, relatively speaking, I mean, it's relative. It only is the same at or under certain sense. at by some measurements or by some property or by some standard, they're the same. Beyond those circumstances, there are differences, or there the same won't be cannot be guaranteed. So so I hope you can appreciate the complexity of our universe, and of course the complexity of a human being, and our what's the word? Our consciousness, our ability, our freedom, our individuality. And, all these things are much more colorful than if otherwise. The whole universe is and us are made of a few hundreds identical parts. Okay. What else we have? Where else we have a human factor in physics? Since we're talking about atoms, and another thing would be what is atoms are made of, or say the parts of the atoms. And we know electron, and what are the parts of nucleus. And of course, people come up with some term called fundamental particles or elementary particles. I mean, look, who the F are you? You call something elementary and something become elementary? It is unknown to you. How can you define it as elementary? Logically speaking, as long as something got a property, that something gonna have parts, gonna have composition to derive or to ensure that property. It is fundamental, only limited by your imagination, by your IQ, by your ability. You facing unknown, all you have to do is explore. Not calling something elementary. Who are you? Jesus Daddy? I am Almighty. I'm talking for the nature. I'm speaking for Jesus' Father. So, the individuality of atoms, let's just say hydrogen atoms, which may very well be very useful. Say, for example, nuclear fusion, people are looking for, are trying to achieve. Just taking all the, just taking the hydrogen blindly and try to achieve nuclear fusion. And it is relatively difficult. But somehow, if you selectively select the, relatively speaking, special hydrogen atoms, and which may very well be easier to achieve uh, than nuclear fusion. Easier to lit up, so to speak. Alrighty. I guess that's enough for the uh, Schrodinger's cat. I'll speak. I'll talk about mathematics the next video. Alrighty. See you tomorrow. Bye.